Day 25, Radville BMX, 30-day, 30-bike challenge. It's 2 for Tuesday, day 25. Wanted to make this one super cool. Appreciate everyone checking us out and watching. And for today, we have 1986 GT World Tour, and we have 2 of them. So let's get into it. So these World Tour are dated serial number 85, indicating end of 1985, decaled for 1986 in the World Tour style. And we'll get into that a little bit later in another episode for the World Tour and the evolution of that, leading to the PFT in 1987. But these are early 1986 World Tour. In fact, the one has Pro World Tour, and that's kind of leading them into the PFT name change. But we'll get into all that later. As far as I know, a little bit of urban legend around that name and convention, and so they switched it out to PFT. But I knew it as a kid as a World Tour, and that's what they hosted every year, and that's what we went to see at Radville BMX. It was super rad. Loved it, and that's what Radville BMX is all about. It's paying ode to the old school. So even though Radville BMX isn't around anymore since the 90s, right? They moved out of Rockville to Baltimore in Maryland in the 90s. And basically, funny story, when I actually went there, I needed some parts in the mid-school era, mid-90s. Went to find Radville BMX to get some parts to restore my GT Pro Performer World Tour. Saw that earlier in an episode 2, day 2, and to my surprise and much to my dismay, I couldn't find Radville BMX. It just wasn't there anymore. So years later, fast forward, you know, loving the decals, had them all on, you know, some lamps and other things I could stick them on. So I was actually looking for some new decals for one of my bikes, for one of my rides. The color pattern was so cool. In fact, it was the green and blue, and I loved it so much and couldn't find it. Kind of found out, you know, what was going on, a lot of repop stuff out there. Ended up meeting some great people that used to work there and just getting some collectibles. And, you know, Radville to me is a state of mind, right? In fact, in my rugby days, coined a phrase called Rugby Town, and wrote something about that in the early 90s. Part of a school project. So Radville to me is kind of that evolution, right? At Rugby Town, you could see, besides the stadium being packed and rugby going on, outside there was aerial showmanship on the quarter pipes, half pipes, and people enjoying it. So Radville is kind of that evolution. We'll get into all that later. But, you know, love sharing this stuff with you, and hope you're enjoying it too. So 2 for Tuesday, blue and green, World Tour. A little late out here. You can see the sun setting behind us to the west over the Patuxent River here. And this is our sunset trail, our sunset ride, actually. Part of some of the things we do at Radville BMX. It's a, you know, riding club, and we try to share the sport with folks, especially if they're visiting the area and don't know where to go. We want to make sure they catch the right place at the right time. But today was a little ambitious. I was kind of working on a couple of things, and the idea came to me on a 2 for Tuesday. I sort of had a couple of particular bikes that look so much alike, and then I was actually looking at a World Tour and then a Pro Freestyle Tour, both of 86, and kind of, you know, both were in this Maui blue, and I was kind of getting my head around it, but I really like this OG green, and they both got the same decal World Tour, same date, same serial number, so I decided to go with that, kind of the blue and the green. Thought that would pop a little better and kind of make the story a little bit more cohesive with the complement of each other. And most importantly, they're both original frame and fork, as best I can tell. I mean, up close you'll just see, and the decals, you know, everything just looks right on these. And that's how I got them. That's how they came to the shop. So I definitely believe it. The other one needed probably a little bit more work to get it show ready, so I'd really been behind. Today was all about brakes. Don't mind the long cable on the rear on the green one, but did clip the other 3 cables. Did the POTS mod. The rear one was already done and just didn't cut it. It would have been a matter of actually making the video or cutting the cable, and I had to choose. In fact, realized I forgot grips on this one as well. I did have the white AMEs. These were the ones I was saving the white AMEs for the other day when I forgot them on the Mongoose. So there you go. But do got more of a stock of white AMEs, so that'll be fine. I'll get them on there afterwards. That's not the point of the story today. Point of the story here is, let's talk about these beautiful timepieces. So from the ground up, we have white GT tires on the blue Maui World Tour, and these are like the no sidewalls on them, so I think they're probably a little bit later, but they do scream 80s to me and look great on the outside of these OGK mags in white, so loving that. Moving forward, you actually see the rear frame standers. I'm going to call these, I believe their reference is Gen 2. Gen 1's a little bit more of a whale tail. These are actually stamped GT, but to me, these are the ones that I remember as a kid. They got the serrated edge on the standing platform, and got to be careful. I had a bad experience with my GT early on. One time I was trying a lawnmower and kind of standing on the mag and the frame stander, and did cause a little damage on that chainstay, so it really took me a lot to put those on there. But I knew this would pop, right? The white on the blue would just look dynamite. We'll talk about the green one in a second. So moving up to the midsection, we got some SR crank sets and Shimano pedals. Went with the Shimano in blue. Probably painted. I doubt they're original blue, but they look fantastic and match. Got the GT chain ring and disc inside. The disc is not stamped. I think it's just an SR chain disc, but the chain ring is stamped. Moving up, you got the 85, 86 GT seat clamp with a GT stamped seat post. So you don't see a decal on there because it's actually got the stamp, you know, so it's actually into the metal, and didn't want to cover that. Probably somebody pulled the coin off of it when it, you know, to show that, and I just left it that way. Got the 85, 86 GT seat in blue. Moving on up, we got the fork standers in front in white with the white OGK mags and GT tires again. Diacomp 880 freestyle front brake, and actually 901 MX in the rear. Then the GT mallet stem with the Epic headset holding things tight, and the GT bars with also got to give a shout out to the OG GT pads, and if those aren't from 1986, I'm not sure, but they are definitely old and brittle and fragile, but look great. Love them. Really pop on that bike. Might have had a red set on there instead of the yellow lettering, but I think they look just as great there. And 128 levers on the brakes and a crossbar pad as well. Left the stem pad off. Didn't really want to cover the mallet. And then moving over to the green is same 1985 stamp serial number with 86 decals. Only difference is these say Pro World Tour, so I'm thinking that was probably a little bit later on in 86. Could have had some different componentry. Not even totally sure about that, but I believe that's what led to the Pro Freestyle Tour after they got into a little naming dispute. From what I understand with Schwinn. Schwinn had something as well in that moniker, and so they changed the name to Pro Freestyle Tour, and there's your evolution of the 1987 PFT that everybody loves and covets, right? All right, so again, here we have the green GT tires. No sidewall, but all green GT tires, GT tread. We'll show some close-ups. OGK mags on the inside. Frame stander on the rear, and must admit it's an orphan on the right side only, but it is green, and so it looked pretty cool. With the SR crankset, again stamped SR on this one, 175. Pedals are Well-Go, kind of some knockoffs, but a nice little blue, and so I changed those out from the SRs just because they look better with the pop of blue there. Got the green disc on the inside and a tough neck, I think, on the chain ring. I don't think that's a GT, just looking at it from here. I think that looks like a tough neck to me. Moving on up, got the GT clamp, holding things tight on the seat mast with the GT coin decal, laid back seat post with the 85, 86 blue GT seat. Got the GT pad on the top tube. Looks good, looks OG, love that color. They did come out with some repops of those, but I believe that's an original one, had that for a while. On the forks and the front, we got the green GT tire with OGK mags, and we have the green fork stander. Both sides on the front, and 880 Diacomp freestyle brakes on the front and rear. GT mallet stem. I believe that's actually OG green. I'm not sure, but it's not powdered by me. And does seem to be original. It's got some good beauty marks on it, scuff marks and so forth with the Epic headset. And GT bars with the GT coin decal and some nice AME grips. MX lever on the rear and a 128 on the front. So all up, all in, these are just beautiful timepieces to me. Definitely 8 out of 10s, maybe 8.5. I mean, I'm, you know, super thrilled with these bikes, how they looked. Wanted to show them together. We're going to get you some close-up footage and some extra pictures in the edit. But thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Day 25, Radville BMX 30-day 30-bike challenge. Go ahead and subscribe and like us. Send any comments our way. And we're looking forward to having a bigger treat, even surprise for tomorrow, day 26. Talk to you then. Bye.